I've been brought here. I've been brought here
thank you for joining
to this
us,
couch.
Daniel.
I've been mic'd. I've been camera'd. I've been set up. In 20 seconds, we're going to do a whole public YouTube video for the world to see, and I don't have the slightest clue what I'm going to talk about.
I think that's the fun.
Oh,
I think
it's
that's
fun.
That's what makes it. That's what makes it
so fun.
Genuine.
It's genuinely fun.
And uncut.
Uncut. That's us.
Welcome. This is live. This is life live with Dan and Sam, Impact Pro. So, back in 2012.
Yep.
I hope that's the right date.
It's the right year. Yeah, right it year. Is.
Okay. It started off just you and Mal.
Yep.
And right now, you now have a team of how many management leaders?
Leaders, managers, full-time managers, 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 4 or 5 additional like shift leaders underneath.
Yeah. So you and Mal collectively have created that leadership team.
Right.
So essentially you guys were the first leaders.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are like the top 3 qualities of a good leader?
It's a good question.
And it's something that I know that you have. I don't know what the qualities are.
Sure.
And I know that as far as like being your employee for 10 years, right? Yep. I know that you embody all of the leadership qualities. What would you say, though, are the top 3 as far as the most important things that stand out to you about a leader?
Well, off the cuff, because as you just found, I just found out about this topic 10 seconds ago. So just off the cuff, I think the 3 top ones, and I don't know if these are in order of importance or not, but just in general, I would say communication has to be one of the top ones, because you can have all the ideas and how you want things to go. You can have your expectations. You can have, hey there. Communication is going to be one of the most important things. Your ability to communicate effectively, because you can have all the ideas. You can have your expectations for your staff, and you have your vision of how you want things to go and what we need to accomplish, and then at the end of the day, if you can't effectively communicate that to the people that are working beneath you, then it's only doing as much good as it can do in your head. You're not able to share it with other people. And then on the other side of that coin, in terms of communication, if you're not a good communicator and you come off a little bit on the abrasive side, or you have a hard time regulating your body language and your emotions and how you appear when you're talking to somebody, the way you word things, that can really work against you as a leader. It can work against the goal you're trying to achieve overall. So communication would be the first one. Yeah. I think the second one would probably be your own self-discipline in modeling what you expect out of everybody else. You can have great ideas that we're all going to be on time every day, and that we're going to dress according to dress code, and we're going to follow certain standards, and we're going to behave a certain way, and we're going to talk a certain way, and we're going to communicate a certain way. And then if you don't have enough self-discipline or self-control to do that yourself, and it's a do as I say, not as I do type thing, you're not going to have anybody that respects what you say, because you're doing the opposite. And so you have to have this self-discipline to be able to practice what you preach. Mm-hmm. I'd say those are my top 2 probably. Number 3, be a good listener. That would be in there. Mm-hmm. And I think probably that would be under communication, I guess. I would say just your ability to it's kind of that intangible metric that in leadership coaching, they call it like the it factor, where people are you just have an ability to influence other people. Mm-hmm. And they just sort of are drawn to buying what you're selling. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that's done through humor. It's done through just being a fun person to be around, being respectful, knowing when to listen to people. You kind of put all those together and you get that influence factor, which is kind of an intangible thing, but you're somebody that people just want to follow. And when we look at facilities a lot, we'll find the person who carries influence and who's a leader sometimes
this is exactly how it would go.
right. And so then what we find at other facilities we work with, that oftentimes there's people that are ascribed leadership titles. They are labeled as a manager. They're supposed to be somebody who's a leader and who has influence. But we find that there's other people there that are more of leaders that don't have the title. They're just that person that people are drawn to. Oh, I have a question. I'm going to go ask so-and-so. I need help. I'm going to go ask so-and-so. The authority figure, the leader, is this person over here. But this person has such influence that they kind of draw people to them. And so those are your real true leaders. You can give somebody a title, but they've got to be able to lead people. And sometimes it's irrespective of your title.
Yeah.
You just have that ability.
So all of those things, I feel like you definitely embody as like the guy who steers the ship here, you know, or one of them, right? Yeah.
Sure.
But I also do think one of the biggest things that like stood out to me that I've never really thought about was like your last tidbit on how like you could be in a leadership position, but not necessarily be that leader. You know, you never really think about that because it's like sometimes it's like leadership comes from like seniority or like from being there a while, you know, or doing whatever, but it might not always like be linear with that specific person's ability or like where they are like capability wise, you know?
And
so
that's the
like
sweet spot is finding, you can give someone a title, that's great. They've got to have the leadership and the influence that goes with it. And so that's really the challenge, is finding somebody who wants that authority, who wants that position, but also has the innate ability to do it. That's the hard part. But I think we've got it here. We figured it out.
And so as you build a leadership team, that requires you to kind of pass the torch. What can you say is the most helpful thing that you've found to make sure that you're doing when it comes to passing the torch and trusting in your leadership team, or keeping like, I guess, connected to it to make sure that those values that you embody, like how do you keep track of that? Like how do you...
I'm still working on it. And it's been several years. I think something we try to do is make sure we're super clear on what we expect. I have to make sure people know in detail what is expected. You know, when I can't just say, go build relationships with the staff, because that might mean something different to each manager. So specifically, I want you to spend several minutes a day or per shift talking one-on-one with each staff member. To me, that's how you build relationship. So it's not enough just to say, well, do this. How do you want me to do that? In a way that's going to meet my expectations, because it's all about communicating and making sure you understand what I'm looking for. So being clear on what you're looking for, having your performance metrics. What should the payroll ratio be? What should our phone abandonment rate be? What should our staff turnover or dog injury rates be? What do I expect? What will I look at and say, yep, we're being successful versus no, we're not? If we don't talk about that, you may have a totally different opinion than I do on that. What you may think is really great, I might not, or vice versa. So setting those good expectations. And then the second half of that is getting out of their way and letting them do it. I see a lot of times owners will kind of hover or micromanage, and I talk to them all the time about, it's not necessarily a bad thing to care a lot about your business. That's where micromanaging really comes from. I just care a lot about what happens here. And so that comes out through me kind of being all in everybody's business while they're trying to do their job. So it's not that it's bad to care, but you've got to know when to pull yourself back and let the managers do what you've trusted them to do, and then step in if something's not up to where it needs to be.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. So then, yeah, that comes down to, like setting your expectations, and then also being able to step back, kind of have that trust, you know, and kind of letting them do their thing. And then the next thing would be then like accountability, right? And making sure like that you are prioritizing, like almost like that like ripple effect of holding them accountable just as much as they should be holding. It is a ripple effect,
it is.
and it requires you to be reflective and hold them accountable.
It is
just the same, right? So what are some ways that you can say that, like, as far as like the leadership team, that you do to make sure there's that accountability factor?
I try to make sure that we're communicating regularly. So we meet every week, as you know, and we go over all the KPIs for the last week. We look at sales, we look at turnover, we look at occupancy, we look at payroll ratios for each department. We break out all those things. New clients coming in, how many are forecasted next month. We look at those every single week together. And so it's not like, oh, I'm going to come to you when there's a problem. We talk every week and we make sure we're aiming correct. And that way, every week, if we've got to turn a little bit to the left or turn a little to the right, we can do that. And it shouldn't be this dramatic, oh my God, we're way off course, crank the wheel. That's not pleasant for anybody. So by having consistent communication, we can just kind of stay on track and fine tune where we need to. That's important. And then also respecting the chain of command both ways. We tell employees all the time, like, respect the chain of command. If you have a problem in your particular facility, don't go to the manager way over here. Who's your direct manager? Go to them first. That's how this is supposed to work. And respecting it the other way. If you're the owner and you walk in and you notice this one area of the building kind of smells, I'm not going to go to that staff member. I'm going to go find who's the manager in charge of this area and say, hey, what's going on over there? Ultimately, that's your responsibility. So I'm just making sure we're following that chain of command is important, both directions.
And one thing that's always like stuck out, like how you said, like not being the hoverer, the micromanager, right? Because in that case with or waiting until there's a problem to communicate, right? That almost seems then sometimes when places like that operate, or even people operate that in general, as far as communication wise goes, it only ever then feels like you're there, like there's only ever a problem,
right?
When that's in the picture, right? So then it's almost like this thing that becomes like leadership or management then's like this, thing to be avoided, kind of, because the only thing that's like that we're aware of in those moments are problems, right? So one way that I've kind of been positively influenced in something that you've said before, as far as like the click treat method, right? Where it's like being able to, one, communicate all the good things too, right? And making sure that you are just meeting regularly, or just when you see something, say something, like as far as like the good too, right? Making sure that there are those good moments with management or a leadership team, right? Not just like only talking about issues or problems or goals that we need to reach or fix, you know? So that's always been like pretty influential too. So I'm always thinking like click treat.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's like the dogs. Nobody's going to tell you a good way to train a dog is to scream no whenever it does something you don't want. Nobody would say, yeah, that's going to work.
Yeah.
So for staff or for management too, from ownership, that is not the way.
Yeah.
You know,
so not only like accountability, but also like that communication and relationship that is a full circuit, you know, not just one way or another. You know? Do you think that, so you mentioned the it factor, like someone having like it, you know, when it comes to like leadership, do you believe that leadership is something that you can necessarily like teach in someone to like a certain degree?
I think you can hone it in. I think you can develop it. A big part of leadership is genuinely caring about the people that work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're somebody who has the personality type that you just don't really care deep down about other people, then I don't know if that's something that's teachable. I'm going to guess no.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're somebody that does genuinely care about other people, seeing them be successful, you're able to push your ego aside and say, it's not a me show. It's going to be a we show, right? Like, we're all going to succeed. I have no problem taking a back row and saying, that had nothing to do with me. That was all you. Awesome job. Take all the credit for it. If you have that kind of personality anyway, absolutely, it can be developed. If you have a bit of an ego, or your personality's not that great, then I feel like there's only so much that can be done there.
Yeah.
In my experience.
Yeah. So flashback. We're gonna flash it back here.
Oh God.
Okay. So let's say we're spitballing. Maybe what, 2018? I'd say 2000, like, so somewhere between 2018,
I'm gonna say
right?
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Flashing back to like 2018, could you have imagined that I would be sitting in this seat?
Yes, only because
And we'll
I don't.
talk about it. It'll be, this is something people are probably looking at it like, what does that mean? But then we'll dive into it a little bit.
My answer would be yes, because if Mal and I, if we didn't see the potential and what we knew could be, we wouldn't have spent time on it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wasted my time on it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm maybe a little surprised in that it's come so far, but no, I'm not surprised that you're able to figure it out.
So my goal was to give a little bit of like a dual perspective.
Sure.
Right? So like, okay, so I was hired 2016.
Yep.
October 2016, going on a decade. It's a
crazy.
It's a pretty longest relationship of my life, as far as longest commitment.
Sure.
You know. So you're thinking, what's 10 years from what I was 19? It's crazy. So I had some daycare jobs. Like, I had 2 daycare jobs before this. I just came into like, okay, just another job that I had, right? Another dog job, whatever. Just a young kid. Like, is 19 a kid? Kind of. I think so. That's a kid.
It's a
right?
kid. Yeah.
Just kind of like, you're 19 years old. What the hell do you know? You know, like, I don't know what I knew back then, but as far as like, it was just, to me, I was like, I've got this job. I'm going to school. I'm doing whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on. Just kind of come in, do the work, like, get my paycheck, like, whatever. Maybe not, that wasn't my like full perspective.
Sure,
you know,
I know what you mean.
What I did,
of course.
like, love dogs.
But you're 19.
Like, my intentions were good,
sure.
You know, but if you could pick out some qualities back then that, like, I don't want to say what my qualities were. I want you to give the perspective of like, what were those qualities that you saw that you knew someone was in there that was like, I know she's got potential here, but I was standing in my own way back then.
Right.
But what were some leadership potential qualities, I guess, back then, if you could
put question. Aside I like where this is going.
Qualities.
This is good.
And we'll talk about the crap qualities in a second, okay? I'm fully reflective. What'd you see?
Got
it. See back then? there was a needle in all that hay, huh?
Yeah, somewhere. It was in there somewhere. No, the leadership qualities, for sure. Most obvious one to me was that you genuinely cared a lot about what you were doing. We'll get into maybe too much, but a lot. You cared a ton about the dogs, about the business, about what we were doing here, about the mission we had. You really, really cared a lot, which you can't teach that. I think to some degree, you put me on the spot, but I think you definitely had I think that influence that we talked about, where clients always wanted to catch up with you, wanted to talk to you, you had a good way of relating to people most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
In communication, where if somebody was coming in and they were very serious and wanted to talk very seriously and professionally, you could match them there. And then if you had somebody come in that you kind of picked up that you could goof around with, you could adapt. So your communication style was adaptable, which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
a positive.
Yeah.
Those are my two biggest ones, I think.
Yeah.
And you like
Thank
totally
you.
know what you were doing with the dogs.
Yeah.
That was also an obvious
you.
thing to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So fun fact, around that time, right? Because I would say it was like maybe 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
We
how
started
long I
day camp in
was working here before.
2017. So
Okay,
it would have
so
been not long after that.
2018, time. So again, we talk about accountability, and there were some tough conversations,
Mm-hmm.
two in particular that we had that like I was kind of on the chopping block a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I feel like you were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what led me there?
To the
If
chopping
you
block?
had to- yeah.
You
what
led
was-
yourself to the
what?
chopping block.
Okay.
But
Fair. See, and this is gross when someone just holds the mirror.
right.
You are the mirror holder, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
But yeah, how did I lead myself to the chopping block? Thank
Well-
you for letting me rephrase that.
You I think because you cared so much about what you were doing and you wanted everything to be really well done and perfect and to the standard that you would have done it, there were some, I would say, major communication issues between you and the staff, from what I can recall, where you knew what you wanted to happen. You knew what you knew. For context, you were running shifts, right, at our day camp program. You knew what you wanted to happen. You knew what you wanted the end result to be. You had a hard time communicating to the staff how to get there, and sometimes it would sort of create this spiral situation where things aren't going well and the clock is ticking and the day is coming to an end and the staff aren't moving with maybe the urgency that you would move, or they weren't doing the things that the way you would do it. They were on their phone a little bit more than you would have been. And so you let, your emotions get the best of you, and then we have a problem, but it was nothing major. You didn't slap anybody that I can recall. But it was not right. After work is fine. It was, you got in your own way with some of the communication stuff and letting your emotions, I think, get the best of you.
Yeah. So one thing that I can say, like, back then is, so I did have a strong passion for what I did and being good at it. Like, I just like being good at stuff.
Sure.
Feels good.
Sure.
But there was a time that I could not, if you asked me if I was a team player, I could not say that I was, as far as like in my head, I wanted to be, but
Sure.
like what I embodied was like, I can do this, and
Right.
I'll kind of put my head down and just do it and get it done. But not realizing that there was like a team of people around me that
Sure.
like, there was like a team of people around me that I think one of the biggest things that I feel led me to that chopping block, or how I led myself to that chopping block, was just disregarding what it meant to be a team player, and understanding that back, like even now, like back then, now throughout my entire career here, like culture has always been something that has been really embodied, and what stuck out was as a sore thumb was the fact that like the team didn't want to necessarily work with me, or didn't feel confident with coming to me, or I didn't hide my wires, so my
Mhm.
energy transferred to them, and so it became something that my skill sets and who I was and what I cared about and what I did was secondary to the fact that that's all good, but like I need everyone to feel like they want to work with you. I need
Right.
everyone to feel great about what they do. I need someone who's going to show them and lead them to being who you are, or like being at the same skill
Mhm.
set, or working together as a team. And that just was not,
Yeah.
that was not I.
One of my favorite quotes about leadership is, um, bad leaders make you feel like they're important, and good leaders make you feel like you're important. It's not as much about me when I'm a leader as it is about you. And the it's hanging right on the wall right there. The true measure of a good leader is how many leaders they create.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. You can be a top performer. And that's why we underscore culture, and that's why we talk about it so much. That's a perfect example. Sure, you could be a great performer. You could be a great dog trainer. You could be a great groomer.
Mm-hmm.
If your attitude is not there, culturally you're a disaster. Where does that put us?
Mm-hmm.
We're not successful. And on the flip side, if the talent isn't quite there, but the culture is there, the attitude is there, we can work with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we can handle. So it does all hinge on culture, leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Talent is great, but it only gets you so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to have both.
You take way back when, right? A young kid, because predominantly the industry is young.
Mhm.
Like it's
For sure.
For a lot of it is like kind of deemed as like kind of an entry level
It is.
job,
Yep.
right? So, and that's a big struggle a lot of times is employee turnover when you do have just like a lot of just young kids coming in,
Right. Right.
And it's not to say that it's like your job to like take this young kid and be like, let me
Right. Yeah.
make
Right.
you an adult,
Right.
like let me, but I think it's a struggle that I think
Mhm.
that a lot of it could be worthwhile to pay attention to, that like you do have. Back then I was just a young kid just coming in, like
Mhm.
coming to work, I didn't really understand those values. I didn't understand like every other job I had before was kind of like, yeah, okay, you go to a
Mhm.
job, you punch in, like whatever. You don't like who you work with, who cares? Like,
Right.
just go and do the job,
Go talk shit about them in the back room.
yeah. Oh my God. Like go home after work and like write
Right.
about them in your journal,
Right.
and like despise coming into work the next
Sure.
day, but whatever. Get
Show
it
up
done.
anyway. Right.
So, but I think especially with this job being super just, you need a team, right? You've got whether you're daycare, boarding, grooming, training, like there's a lot of hands that
Mhm.
need to be able to cooperate and
Yep.
work together. But coming from the perspective of me, a young kid, just not really knowing, it was never my intentions, right?
Sure.
It's just something where sometimes without being aware of that,
Mhm.
as far as like the ego or the performance aspect,
Yeah.
I think that that's something that even leaders or people who are in leadership positions sometimes can, even myself, like you have to remind yourself, like, how can I make this better? Like,
Mhm.
rather than like writing it off as like, oh, here's just this punk who just
Right.
doesn't want to do the things,
Right.
do they not want to do it, or are they just not being led to make their
Mhm.
choices, right? And I can confidently say that I, again, intention and impact, it wasn't necessarily my intent, but I was surely impacted by your ability to be like, hey, you know what, I'm going to take this leadership role and basically like sit me down, hey, what's up?
Mhm.
Figure it out,
Yeah.
and creating that awareness to that. Because
Mhm.
to me, what was just a job, had essentially like turned into this career.
Right.
That like, I was 19 years old, just not really thinking that 10 years from now, you couldn't have bet me money to be in a position where I now, like, basically my job is to take care of
The old yous.
the old me's, like literally all the
Right.
me's. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh wow,
This is how
full
karma
circle
works. This is how the
moment,
universe
huh?
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's crazy to think
Yep.
about,
Right.
Okay, so earlier you had mentioned that there's kind of a difference between being in a role where you kind of can lead a shift, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're like a leader, right? So would you say that, like, because I essentially had those skill sets, I was in a position to lead a shift, get the things done. But would you agree that I was not a leader?
Yes.
So if you can remember, what was the scenario that kind of led you to realizing like, hey, we've got to sit Sam down. We've got to figure this out like now.
I think this was years ago. I think it had been brought to our attention by another employee. Because the thing about day camp is it's a different building, and I don't have direct oversight over it. And so whatever goes on over there I'm really depending on the employees or the manager to tell me about it. I'm not seeing it unless I go stand over there. And then, of course, everyone acts differently anyway when that happens. So I don't ever trust what I'm seeing to be truth either. But I think an employee, a well-respected employee who had been here for a long time, and I valued her opinion, just came to me and basically said, I am done working with Sam. She's impossible to get along with some days, and is not very nice to me, or some version of that. I don't remember exactly. And I just knew we're big fans of not building positions around people. So I knew the position I needed you to fill at that time needed you to be good with people. I didn't have anything else for you. I couldn't go stick you in a room by yourself with dogs and somehow make that work. It had to work. And so then I said, okay, well then I have to lower my expectations for the whole company, because if one person can act like this, everybody can act like this, or we have to part ways. And that will kill me to do it, but something has to be done here. And so we had a conversation, and I think I basically said that. And
something along the lines of that.
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know I made it clear that this will be the last day we have this type of conversation, and wherever your career goes from here is totally up to you. And then I said, of course, we're here to support you. Doors open, phones available. If you need something, let us know, but you need to do whatever you have to do to get this figured out. And if it's something from us, let us know. And I don't know, something happened. You figured it out. How did you feel after we had that conversation?
So it's...
Be honest.
Yeah, well, at first, so I've never not been a reflective person. Like I knew as soon as you were like, hey, you and Mal were like, hey, just pop in the office really quick. I was like,
here we go.
All right, I wonder what this could be about,
Sure.
And so, which sucks to look back on, but it's also like a mixture of like disappointment for myself, right? Because I knew, I was like, all right, yeah, I know that I know what I'm doing and that I'm good at it, but that doesn't save you from just doing what like, unless you're like working in a building by yourself.
Sure, right.
And you'd be
exactly.
yeah, like, okay, cool. Yeah. You have to work with others. Like, you suck.
It's only going to take you so far.
So, I think it was also a big, like, almost like come to Jesus moment where I don't think up until then I had two people sit in front of me with a mirror that was like, here she is. Now, like, figure it out, right? Which was like scary at the same time, I also was like kind of like I felt bad because I was like, I love these people, but it really just, for me, it kind of like, it like depended on the day, you, especially too when you're just like learning,
right.
Just like, okay, you say like, okay, career, life, school, there's a lot of stuff but then you also have to realize, like, get your priorities straight. And this is like real life. This is the world now, right? And in a way where it was, I think one of the most influential, I would say, meetings of my life. And it probably was like a minute and a half.
And it was totally on a whim. It was just like,
it was literally just like, hey, we're just going to sit down and here we go. But you were very clear to say like, hey, it's like, there are people who don't like working with you. And that wasn't something that you guys were willing to stand behind at all.
No.
Which I can appreciate tenfold, you know? So I felt a lot of things. Also kind of inspired, you know, not in that moment.
Sure.
No.
Later.
But now looking back on it, it's like you need, in order to be a leader, you need to also be surrounded by leaders, you know? So I think that also, like for me now, right, where I had kind of proceeded then was, again, embodying who and what I wanted to be surrounded by, you know? And the only reason why it stuck in my head was because I sucked.
Right.
Right. It was like, because those scenarios were tough, and it sucked because it's like your environment kind of matches you a little bit, you know? So I like to think of that in the days that I come across now with interacting with our staff and the people who I can lead, you know. It's like you've got to embody that, you know, and that's what you guys did for me way back when, which is pretty sick.
And another thing worth noting about that is oftentimes as managers or as leaders, we get caught in this thing where, like for you, we cared about you a lot, but I can't care more about your career and your success here than you care about it. And so when we have these younger leaders and managers and even employees that, you know, I can care about you and I can want the best for you and I'm going to do what I can to help you, but there has to be a point that I say, okay, now this is getting toxic because you're not helping yourself. You're not doing things that are going to better yourself. It's not up to me. I have my own life that I have to live. I have my own responsibilities that I have to take care of. So I can't care more about your situation than you do. And we say it sometimes with dog owners too. Like we have a dog owner who, you know, isn't taking the best care of their dog, and we get bent out of shape about it. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's not my dog. And so I can want the best for it, but I can't lose sleep over it because it's not my dog. I don't have, so, you know, for these employees and young managers, I'll help you up till a point, and then you've got to take it from there. And we sometimes fall victim into going too far. We give people just one too many chances, and we let it drag on for too long because we think this will be the time. This will be the time. Sometimes you've got to know when to call it and say, okay, now the team is suffering, the business is suffering, and we've got to call it. And so that, I think, was my line. We got to a point where I said, okay, that's where I stop. And now it's on you, and you've got one shot at this. And you nailed it. So well done.
So this experience not only got me here, right? But what did that experience necessarily mean for the business, like for how you might have changed or ran things to avoid a scenario like that?
Yeah, it was enlightening in that we didn't have a really good way for staff to, unless they were comfortable, just to come into my office and tell me that they had this issue. We didn't really have a way for them to give specific feedback on specific people. And so I think it was shortly after that situation, we implemented our anonymous staff survey. So every 6 months we send a survey out that asks questions specific about each manager. Do you feel supported? Various questions about their training and onboarding, questions on their job satisfaction, and just gets a overall kind of vibe check that they can submit anonymously. Granted, we take it with a grain of salt because everybody always wants to work less weekends and wants to make more money, and that's okay. Yeah. We all do. But we look for other trends that are important, like, you know, if a certain manager has glowing reviews and another manager does not, or somebody feels really supported by somebody. And okay, if there's a one-off, it's one person, there may be an interpersonal conflict there. But if there's 12 people that submit that they don't feel supported, then we have something to look into.
Yeah.
And so it's just a nice way for us to kind of keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Yeah.
And
then
routinely.
With those surveys make it back to some sort of connection or accountability with like the manager.
So our managers' performance analysis every 6 months, we will review the survey results, and that directly plays into compensation, the whole deal. So we weight those pretty heavily. Again, not necessarily outliers, but the trends we're looking at. But yeah, it's a great tool for us to use to be able to, because I can't be everywhere and see everything. So yeah, that was for sure something that came out of that.
Yeah.
And I think just me knowing where my line was, because I was a relatively new leader, I guess, only a few years in, and I didn't even know where my line was. How many chances do you give somebody? You want to see people succeed. Life doesn't, and that's the other thing. Life doesn't teach us these things. High school is a drama factory. We don't learn anything in high school about avoiding drama. If anything, we learn how to get into it.
Yeah.
College, same thing. Workplaces, entry-level jobs especially. I mean, it's just a lot of it's just a toxic world we live in. What we consume on the internet, it's just trash, a lot of it. And so I wouldn't say young adults are set up for success at all. Everybody comes in and has elements, of questionable communication or questionable moments of attitude or whatever. So you give people a little grace, but it helped me kind of narrow my line of here's what I'm going to tolerate, here's what I'm going to do to work with them to see if we can get them where we need them, and then if not, here's when we're going to call it. And that kind of helped us fine-tune that a little bit, and we've applied that. And then now I try to teach that to the managers. Where's your line? How far are you going to work with somebody? If you're complaining about an employee, I don't want to hear you back here 8 months later with the same complaint from the same employee. No way. We have to have a line. We've got to know when to call it. So it's important. So
working with other facilities, whether it be owners, managers, there is the struggle of staff, like staff training, staff accountability, and I'm trying to figure out, is there like equal parts of seeing that there is the need for training and accountability, but there's also the need of people understanding what it means to be a leader and understanding their responsibility in the matters too.
Correct.
Would you say, like, I don't want to try to figure out like whether it's a specific percentage, but would you say that there's a need for both of those?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because that kind of sticks out to me a little bit sometimes, where it's not always what could be one person's glaring, like, oh, there's an issue with this, right?
Yep.
Whether it's staff doing the things or training or accountability. But then there's also sometimes where you kind of uncover that it's a kind of leadership issue, right?
100%. Yeah. Because so often we get to a facility, they've set up their initial training, they set everything up, that's where all the focus is, and then someone gets hired, they put them through the training, and then they're just off to the races. And we know how chaotic these businesses can get at certain times. And under pressure, everything's great on a slow day. Everything's great when there's plenty of staff to go around and all the dogs have decided to be quiet that day and the phone isn't ringing a whole heck of a lot. Easy. That is not the metric that we're looking for when we're trying to figure out the quality of the leadership. I want to see when this place is an absolute S show. Family program. But an absolute
super show
when it's just a mess and we're short-staffed by 3 people. 20 dogs showed up without a reservation. The phone hasn't stopped ringing all day. And P.S., the hot water just went out, and the light over there went out, and the internet's down, right? We've all had those days. And Buddy can't stop exploding diarrhea all over his kennel, right? There's definitely days.
Yeah.
And those are the days that we can see the quality of the leadership of that facility. Sure, the training was good. Did we train for a day like this? I don't think we did.
Yeah.
Did we outline our expectations for when all these things go wrong? No, we didn't. That's when the leader steps in. That's when everything will fall back on the leadership and the culture. And that's when those people that, like I mentioned, that girl that been here a long time, those people are most valuable. Because if you think about it like, a sailor, sure, you've been sailing for a long time, but you've also been through storms.
Mm-hmm.
You've been working in this kennel for a long time. You've been working in the facility for a long time. You have experience, but you've been through like storms. You know what can happen, and you know how to get through it to their side.
Mm-hmm.
And so pouring into those people that can handle those types of situations, and they're your like rock steady people. And yeah, the leaders that can handle that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the leader who can handle an easy, quiet, calm day. That's important, sure, but I want to know who can handle it when S hits the fan.
Yeah. I can't remember where I saw it, and I don't know. Somehow I feel like it was something you reshared on Facebook, so forgive me if I'm just stealing your thunder right now.
If I shared it on Facebook, it's not my thunder.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
But sure, go ahead.
But no,
I
it was something where it was an analogy of a pilot, right? And if like all of a sudden you're experiencing like turbulence.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
And the pilot announced and was like, "Oh my God,
we got a huge problem.
Turbulence.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and like, hopefully everything.
Right.
Hopefully we figure it out.
Right.
And almost is like that unsureness, or
Sure.
even just playing into also the panic of the turbulence, right? Versus like a pilot that, okay, you experience turbulence and he comes on like, hey, like there's a little bit of turbulence, but why don't you just go ahead, like sit back. We'll get to our destination by this time. Here's some peanuts.
Sure.
And that can make all the difference about your flight. Right?
Correct.
Because like imagine if you like experienced a pilot that was like
freaking out. I'm freaking out.
Like,
I'm pulling every emergency lever I can find. I'm flipping out.
I think that it can be really important. The reason I wanted to pick this topic, right, is one, because it's very near and dear to me.
Sure.
And also because I think when I think of leadership, like when it was like, you and Dan are going to have a couch talk, I was like, boom, the man of leadership, right?
Oh, God. Jesus.
But it was something where I think that sometimes that is a big puzzle piece that facilities can sometimes forget to reflect on, right? And realizing how important it is, like, especially to embody what you need to see, right? So like that pilot needing everyone on the plane to stay calm, right? And having faith that they've got it and keeping it together, right? And then not only embodying that, but inspiring that, right? And again, becoming the person who creates other yous, right? Or other leaders, right? Because again, you're kind of you're in charge of that. Like,
you're in charge of the show. You're the pilot here. And you have to, having the mental clarity of that pilot to say, yeah, we're in a crappy situation right now. And if we're in a facility, this is not a good day. Nobody's having fun today. This is not a fun day. But to be able to sit back for just a half a second and say, this day is here, whether I like it or not. We're in the middle of this crappy day, one way or the other. So what will make this crappy day as good as it possibly can be? The staff all showing up and nobody freaking out. And so if we're going to get through this crappy day one way or another. Let's try to get through it as gracefully as we possibly can, because having everybody panic and me losing my cool it's going to make it worse. But you've got to be able to have that self-discipline we talked about way in the beginning, to stop for a second and say, what am I doing right now? How can I help the situation? And
I think that like we can say like our staff showing up every day in the manner that they do, right, is not only the fact that they feel confident and comfortable and trained, right, but they also show up because of that guidance, right, of that discipline that we have, of that relationship and communication. You know, they don't just show up for the next S show, right?
No,
and
right.
like, okay, I'm just here we go again, right?
Yep.
It's just something where, like, regardless of the day, right? And I think that's where we combat turnover, right? That's where we can't, because it's going to happen. Like, this isn't something that everyone can handle, right? This isn't
forever
something, forever, right? I didn't know, you don't know what your career is going to be when you're 19 years old.
Typically
if you
not.
do, like,
no, I didn't.
No, I didn't expect. It's not that I like wanted a different career. It's just that you just don't, you're just working at 19, right? But realizing that, when it comes down to whether it's like something that is for part-time, right, or an entry-level job that person might not stay forever, right, but it is something that we can encourage them to stay a little longer, and guide them to when we pay attention to the way that we're steering the ship.
Right. People don't want to play on a losing team, right? I don't want to play on a team that's just constantly losing. And so by having a strong leader, by holding your culture at a high regard, by cutting the weak links when necessary, you're preserving that winning team. That winners, those A-plus players we always talk about, they want to work on that winning team. Final thoughts.
Can't believe it's time flies when you're having fun.
True. So my final thought would be that we don't focus enough on leadership, and anybody who thinks they've got it down pat, no improvement required, is wrong. And there should always be that element of continuing improvement. I'm not perfect. I know I can be better. And so we're constantly being aware of the areas that maybe we are not succeeding in all the time. Hopefully you have somebody, either a business partner, manager, or a leader above you or alongside you that's kind enough to go out of their way to give you the feedback of where maybe you could improve. And then just being kind of relentless in your pursuit of developing your leadership qualities. I think that would make, just in general, the world a much better place. And it would make for a lot of happier people, I think. Broad stroke, I feel like. Yeah, as far as Sam's concerned, I think it's a great walking example that I know I've used with other staff. Hopefully that's okay. I've told them and I've explained there is a way through this. If you're in a spot where you think, that's it, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I have these hang-ups that are holding me back a little bit, that happens, and you've proven that there is a way through it. If you care enough, I can't care more than you, if you care enough and you want it bad enough, it can be done. And I think you're a great example of that.
Thank you.
I think there's probably people that maybe you worked with that would be, like, I saw your potential for sure, and I knew where you could go. There may be other people that are more surprised. And so it's cool to see that you've come out on the other side, and it just shows that if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen.
And I think that it's important to also, leadership, as much as it is about like self-reflection and about embodying a leader, it's also leaning on a good team. You know, so like I wouldn't be where I am without a good team of leaders, a good team of people who just kind of show up and embody that every day.
Yeah, the collective.
Shout out Dan and Mal. Shout out the OG leaders.
What's with our pink drinks?
Feeling pinkish.
Pinkish.
Pink.
It's pink day.
It is a big pink day.
Raspberry. Mine's raspberry. What's yours?
Pink slush?
Very grown up of you.
Thank you. That's very mature of me.